let's move on to prompt engineering. We are going to talk about prompt engineering because this is the tool we use the most in generative when you work with generative AI. And that's simply natural language instructions for GPT or any generative AI tool to understand your desired output. So it's how we speak to the models. Good prompts improve your outputs, and prompt engineering is the foundation for getting good AI generated content. So tips for designing strong prompts. I know there is a lot of articles that have gone around and said, this is the way to prompt, or they'll show you like 100 prompts. And I really want to encourage you to experiment with prompting, because prompting, there's not one way to do it. It is much more of an art than a science. If you have a background in writing, you tend to get a little bit better results because words matter. And so you can start prompting by giving it one big prompt and seeing what the output is and then working with it. Or you can start with a really simple prompt and building and giving it more information to get the output that you want. There's really no one right way to prompt, but there are ways to get better outputs. And so that's what I'm going to cover here. Be clear and specific. When you use concise language and give context, you'll get better outputs. When you break down tasks into clear steps and identify the key criteria that you want the model to focus on, you're going to get better outputs. So when I did the data analysis, I didn't just say, analyze this data, right? I told it what the data was, so I gave context, and then I broke it down. I want you to analyze the key themes, give me a sentiment, and then give me recommendations, right? I told it exactly what I wanted. And then the context centered on the desired outcome. We also have things that you could add to your prompt to make your prompt sound and feel like something that, like a document that you want to emulate, or a style that you want to emulate or replicate. And this is called, excuse me, I got ahead of myself. When we talk about zero-shot prompt, we're referring to a shot is an example of an input and an output that you give a model. Zero-shot prompts include no examples in it. So if you look on the right here, we have examples. Describe the key steps in a new product launch process. We have given it no examples. So basically what the model will do is it will go to its own training and look for examples of product launches and give you an output. And that may work for you. But maybe you want to have something a little more specific that sounds like your brand or is written in the style of reports that you already produce. This is where you would add one shot or few shot to your prompts. And these are simply one example or many examples of the type of output that you'd like. So for example, we see on the left here, if you were writing a one-shot prompt, you had to write your instructions in the prompt and then follow it up with example. And here you have an example of how you want the output to sound. And so your output, whenever, you will get an output that sounds similar to that. If my prompt was write 20 tweets announcing, Coca-Cola's new flavor, you would get 20 examples in the style of the example you have provided. Okay. And the same with few shot prompt release. In this case, you're just adding multiple examples. So the model is learning from you what you want the output to be. This is where we go back to being concise and specific. Now, if you have been working with prompts already, you may have gotten some of the basics and want to kind of get a little bit better. Adding data to it or representative data and telling it what you want to focus on, whether it's uncovering patterns, generating predictions, offering insights, brainstorming, et cetera, add that information to your prompt. Tell it what you want it to do and experiment with that. And then we talked about this earlier, but breaking it down into smaller, manageable steps. So you may start with analyze this data and tell me your top 3 themes. You get the output, you see the themes, and maybe you want to build on that. And so you add, great, now within those themes, add 5 sub-themes for each theme, right? So we're really breaking it down into small, more manageable steps. And you can see here, this is a 4-step prompt structure based on kind of the guidelines I just gave you. And we can provide a screenshot of this for our upcoming prompt exercise. But basically, you want to define your end goal. We have the example here. Create a brief for a social media campaign promoting Coca-Cola's commitment to sustainability. Then we have context. We want to give it information so it knows what we're working on. So we've got Coca-Cola's latest sustainability initiatives and goals. And they have examples and formats. And so now we have an example in this prompt. We add campaign objectives, target audience, key messages. And so we're essentially describing the type of brief that we want. Okay. And then lastly, this is really important, especially if you're going to be doing something that's customer facing, persona and tone. So ensuring that it thinks like from your function or from your customer's perspective and matches the tone that you'd like it to use. So if you're using a useful tone or a chatty tone, you would want to specify that in the prompt. Because as you've seen before, ChatGPT or Coke GPT actually will have a specific style or tone, and that may not match what you actually want it to say. So in your persona and tone is where you would give it the instructions of how it should sound and how it should act. And here's what it looks like when you put it all together. Question. Any questions on that? Do we have any in the chat, Jennifer?
No questions for now, no.
Okay, great. All right, so that is prompt. Go ahead.
Thank you, Nicole. So I have a question related with the prompts.
Yes.
I have seen that multiple times and in multiple examples. So we need to indicate ChatGPT the role. For instance, if you want a report, you can put, imagine that you are like the marketing manager. And
Yeah.
this report goes to the, I don't know, to the president of the company. Or imagine that you are, I don't know, like a teacher, and this goes to your populace. So
Yes.
is that, so I have tried that several times, but sometimes with ChatGPT, uh, I don't get like the results. I expect probably like a little more of difference, but
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't have the impact. So not sure if I need to be more specific, or sometimes for a specific topic, ChatGPT doesn't find like a difference. I don't know if you have any tips related to that specific way to put in the prompts.
Yeah, I think that's great feedback. I think one of the things that I think about in that space is, okay, what is the other pieces of your prompt? So if I am acting as a marketing so we have this example here, a sustainability marketing consultant, maybe I would add in the CPG space or CPG industry, or I'm working as a sustainability marketing consultant to solve the problem of recycling waste or something like that. Giving it that specific context sometimes help. Other times the persona may not have as much of an impact. Like sometimes if you are a sustainability marketing consultant and you're doing data analyst, you probably aren't going to get that much of a difference, right? Excuse me, you're doing data analysis. You're not going to get as much difference in the output. So I think it depends on kind of the specificity of the task, but also the context of what you're trying to do. So I would experiment with adding more to see how specific you can get. And don't worry about writing too much, right? You can always write more in these prompts. They're designed to take a lot. The other thing you can do, if you are not getting the results you want, is to take your prompt, put it into Coke GPT and say, I'm not getting the results I want. Tell it the results you want and tell it to improve your prompt and see what you get. Sometimes you get a better prompt. But again, it's all in the way that we describe it as well.